We're about to start our meeting, Spiritism Inspiring Lives, with a reading of the book Our Daily Bread, message number 9, People of Faith. Therefore, everyone who hears my words and practices them is like the wise man who built his house upon a rock. Jesus, Matthew 7:24. In the gallery of vulnerable people of the faith, great preachers of the gospel have always been construed as being the greatest expressions of Christianity. However, this has been the case only when the instruments of the truth have not, in fact, forgotten the watchfulness that is crucial for righteous testimony. It is interesting to note that of all his disciples, the Master regards most highly those who listen to his teachings and actually puts them into practice. From this, we may conclude that people of faith are not only those who are prodigious in words and enthusiasm, but those who also display attention and goodwill in light of Jesus' teachings, studying their spiritual content in order to apply them in their daily endeavors. It is comforting to realize that all those involved in the fields of evangelical service will progress towards the inner marvels of the faith. Still, we must at all times point out the great worth of sensible persons who, upon hearing the teachings and counsels of the good tidings, carefully attend to the solutions of all the problems of the day or circumstances, without allowing their individual achievements to take place apart from the indispensable Christian foundations. All sorts of service, the help of the spoken word, is sacred and essential. However, in the lofty endeavors of self-betterment, learners must never forget the sublime value of keeping still at the right time, so that the prudence may be heard within their soul, guiding their destiny.
Dear Father Lord, today, thank you so much for the opportunity of being here and study the message of Jesus. But most of all, we are all gathered here together to apply all those teachings to our own lives and be a better person every day. So be it.
Welcome everyone here in our weekly study, where we carry on a study, Spiritism Inspiring Lives, where we are all students and learners ourselves, and all of those who also in spirit are with us under the name of God. We are all divine creatures in essence, beings of love and light, and we are here in the pathway of evolution, understanding a bit more about the consoling, hopeful, and universal message of Spiritism that brings to our lives. We carry on today, as we carry on, we finished last week the main principles of Spiritism, and today, in these moments, we will reflect about self-knowledge. Self-knowledge within Spiritism, that means self-knowledge, understanding us as immortal beings as we are, created by God with love, and we are on the journey of learning to love ourselves, to love God's laws, and to become better beings. Self-love is a journey of developing, self-knowledge is a journey of developing self-love. And then we start with the question, who are we? If we ask this question to us, who are we? Who am I? What would we respond to ourselves? Is our perspective from an earthly view, or is our perspective already from a spiritual viewpoint? And then we may ask even, are we spiritual beings having a human experience? Is that the way that we perceive us? Is spiritual beings, immortal beings, who are having a human experience which is transitory in a pathway of our evolution? What would we say to us? For us within Spiritism, yes, we believe that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience which is transitory, but we are not the body, we are not from earth. We are spiritual beings, temporary in a body, but we are evolving and growing through the laws of God and helping us to evolve in dimensions which are much happier. And all of this is within. Self-knowledge means developing the potentials, the sacred or divine potentials that we bring within. Then we start here with the French philosopher Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. In his famous statement, he said, the physical body is not truly ours. It belongs to planet Earth. We can call it our own while we reside in it, but it does not belong to us. How could we explain it as we are starting our reflections about self-knowledge as immortal beings? How is that coming to us? How would we decodify this understanding? How is that connected with self-knowledge? If there is any connection with it. What would we say? What comes to our minds?
So the idea that our physical body is almost like a temple of the spirit, and just like a temple, we don't take it away with us. Mm-hmm. We take care of it. We have zeal over it, but we know that it's going to go through its transformational process, mm-hmm. as the body does. And when it says it does not belong to us, it's in the sense that of detachment of the spirit, because the spirit doesn't need the physical body in a process of attachment. It doesn't need it to be able to continue. It needs to use it as you would use a temple to go in and go through the process of growth, self-enlightenment, self-understanding, going through experiences, but it isn't fundamental for the growth. Otherwise, disincarnate spirits wouldn't be going through the evolutionary process just like us. So we know that evolution doesn't stop, continuous, regardless of whether we're in the physical body or not. It's an interesting quote, but it's one that I think materialists would have a really hard time with.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And for us, yes.
Who am I? I am a human being on planet Earth, made in the image of God. Statement, I've never seen it before. The physical body is not. The only thing that came to my mind was dust you have, for dust you were, and dust you shall become. Mm. You know, God is the spirit of love.
The way that we understand, as we are in the physical body, which is our reality, we are a three-dimensional being, meaning essentially we are a spirit, created by God with love, and then we have the spiritual body, which we in Spiritism call perispirit, is the same thing, and then temporarily we are expressing ourselves through the physical body. But sooner or later the physical body dies, but we carry on alive as we are immortal. So when he says, we can call it our own while we reside in it, but it does not belong to us. Our understanding is that our physical body doesn't belong to us because everything belongs to God. But while we are in the physical body, which is a blessing from God, we are requested to take care of it, to love it, to care, because it is almost like our vehicle that we move around and that we learn and that we progress on earth. This is why he said it doesn't belong to us. And that is quite freeing when we say that. It doesn't mean that we become indifferent with our physical body, because this is the instrument that we can commute around, that we can move around, that we can do what we need to do in our learning process. But we are not the physical body. This is why it doesn't belong to us.
It's why I hate myself when I smoke and do bad things. It's a temple, you know.
I hate
myself. I can't stand it.
So you learn with us. What's your name?
My name is John.
John, you can learn as we also are learning. Self-knowledge is a proposal of self-love. So whatever we recognize as limitations, as shadows, as imperfections, through the self-love process, we choose to stop gradually, and we bring innate that ability to actualize ourselves.
Yeah.
So God doesn't want his children, which are us, that we hate us, because he created us with love, and he wants us to learn to love ourselves.
Yes.
Is that making sense?
Yeah. I just realised, I met a man the other day from Bulgaria. He rang me when I was in the swimming pool. He's starting work. He needs some place to shower. I told him he can come to my house and shower. I'm going to Hammersmith, where I met him the other day, to meet him. Do you meet every Wednesday?
Every Wednesday.
At 5 o'clock?
Yes, 5:20.
This man rang me when I was just getting out of the swimming pool. I said, hi, I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. He said, 20 minutes, half an hour, I'll wait for you. He wants to start work. He worked for some Russian people.
Okay.
They owed him money.
Okay.
Can I go there?
Yes, you
Can I
can
come
go.
back next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday you can.
Thank you.
Much peace to you. God bless you.
God bless you.
Okay. God bless
all.
you. Yes.
God bless you all.
Good. Take care.
I will.
And then we carry on here with our study regarding self-knowledge within Spiritism, Inspiring Lives. And then we refer to the Medium's book by Allan Kardec, which we find a question, what is the purpose of life? Would you read the answer, please?
God wanted the spirits to return to the interest of the soul. The moral progress of mankind is the purpose of life. The human spirit follows the necessary march towards perfection.
So how do we understand this aspect now regarding our reflections of self-knowledge? Self-knowledge is that helping us to carry on our reflections that we are immortal beings, and that the question in the Medium's book is, what is the purpose of life? Are a lot of people immortal beings who are on earth without a purpose in life? Yeah? So what we learn by Allan Kardec now? What comes to us? God wanted the spirits to return to the interest of the soul. Is that the purpose of our journey here on earth? And are we getting there if we develop the process of self-knowledge within Spiritism, knowing that we are immortal beings, that we came back to the school earth in order for us to return the focus towards our essence? Is that making sense? And then it carries on, the moral progress of mankind is the purpose of life. What do we understand about moral progress? What comes to our minds? Let's imagine for those who never heard it, what is that currently meaning to us? Do we have an idea?
Develop our virtues.
Speak a bit louder.
Develop our virtues.
To develop our virtues. Moral progress of mankind. Can we not discuss that there are different definitions of morality on earth? So what does it mean for us within Spiritism? We have different aspects, different ways of addressing it under different cultures. Yeah? And what do we understand about the moral progress? You said the virtues. What do we understand by virtues? Would I be right in saying that we are referring to the ethical values? They are those which are good today, and they will be good tomorrow, and they will be good for afterwards, and will be good for me, and will be good for everyone, everywhere in the universe. Why? Because they do not come from mankind, they come from God. Is that making sense? We are in the evolution process, evolving and progressing and connecting more with that essence. Sorry?
We study that the purpose is to learn how to love.
Yeah.
And that's why we have these moral teachings to break down this concept of love to us. So to be charitable are elements of love. To be true faith are elements of love. Honesty is an element of love. Fraternity is an element of love.
To be respectful.
To be respectful, understanding. So all of this is love broken down into pieces for us children, still coming from, pretty much a primitive world, learning in our own way because we have our intellect very well developed. So now we can start to reflect about
with the guidance of Jesus.
the actual the actual spiritual aspect of it, which we need to develop within ourselves.
Yes.
Jesus said, we're also, everything he does, we could do.
Precisely. And then following up what you said, other aspect is to learn to be tolerant, to be persistent in our journey of evolution in terms of developing the goodness within, to be tolerant, as I mentioned already, to be disciplined. Discipline is not something negative. Discipline is a virtue. Yeah? You want to say something? No? Okay. Okay. In the Spirit's book, Allan Kardec says, in the question 76, how may we define spirits? Because all reflections of self-knowledge are based on spirits and not bodies. Correct? So how would we define spirits? And then we receive the following answer by the enlightened spirits who say, we can say that spirits are intelligent beings of creation. They populate the universe beyond the material world. So how do we develop this now for those who may be studying with us and never heard? Being of creation, intelligent being of creation. What do I understand by that?
What comes to mind is the same way that we ask, what is God and who is God? We can ask, what are spirits? These that we understand now as human beings. But once we then leave our physical body, we still haven't got the full knowledge of what it is. We know that we're eternal. And how we transform and the form we maintain is still not been told to all of us. Maybe some of us have good information. But the idea, the notion is that it's immortality, it's continuation, it's progress, it's evolution, it's refinement, it's freedom, true freedom, not the kind that we have here on earth. So spirits in itself are elements of God created by love in order to learn how to love. And we do that through the process of incarnating and disincarnating, not only on earth, in the physical body on earth, but also in other planes which we're not fully aware of, but we know exist.
But I think just to complement is the intelligent beings of this whole universe. So I think to differentiate from the pantheism, it's that immortal, conscious individual that each one of us has, and that's immortal, isn't it?
So we are unique beings in the universe because we carry on developing through the law of evolution, through the law of progress, as was mentioned. We carry on developing our individuality, which we will never lose. So we have been created simple and ignorant, but in a unique way. So there is no copy and paste within ourselves, within human beings. And our intelligent beings of creation, therefore, as was mentioned, we have been created by God with love. By essence, we are already beings of love, beings of goodness, essentially beings of light. In this process that we are getting to know more who we are within the natural laws in the universe, under the law of reincarnation, more and more we get to know that we are immortal, as has been said, children of God, and beings essentially of goodness. The rest are shadows or limitations that we built throughout the previous existences. Whatever is not in accordance of the real truth, who we are, we will be upgrading ourselves. But we already are essentially beings of love and beings of goodness. Even if you may say, no, I don't have any goodness within, that sometimes brothers or sisters may say, but that is not true, because we all have been created by God, and essentially, as potentials, we all bring goodness, love, and also light. It's just a question of time how we are advancing in our journey.
And we don't lose this.
Never.
We don't lose affections, our thoughts and feelings, and on the path that we are. Even though we don't have the physical body anymore, we don't lose this.
No.
That's why we continue in our progress.
Yes,
in life.
because we are essentially spirits and not the physical body. So when we free ourselves to the physical body by natural law in one way or another, we still are alive, we still are continuing, we still will carry on learning, we still carry on evolving. And guess what? We are never alone. We always have dear ones with us. Although we may sometimes go through a dark way of perceiving things, not seeing, but me not seeing doesn't mean that they're not dear ones around me. So if you look right now around us, especially those in the spirit who may be with us, they will see plenty of good friends who are embracing us, who are calling us, for us to perceive that life continues and God's love is everywhere, all the time, with everyone. And then the question, the Spirit's Book 919, St. Augustine is helping us here. Andrea, would you like to read that bit, please?
What's the most effective means for improving ourselves in this life and for resisting the draw of evil?
What is this question about? That is a very good question. I like that question when St. Augustine raises that. What is the most effective means for improving ourselves in this life and for resisting the draw of evil? In this existence, we could say. If we are self-knowledge, how can I do that? What is the best way? What is the effective mean, actually? He could even say, what is the way to improve ourselves? But he said, what is the most effective? So there are different ways, aren't they? So how do we understand it? What is the most effective way? It's a quite short answer. The sage of antiquity has told you, know thyself. So how do I, as immortal being, now understand that? Allan Kardec asked, what is the most effective means for improving ourselves in this existence or resisting the draw of evil? And the answer is simple, know yourself. It sounds simple, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But it's quite complex.
And when you were going on about the most effective, because we've got elements like doing charity, praying, and looking for external ways of expressing ourselves to be able to resist the draw of inner evil. And then when sometimes see that answers know thyself, it comes to mind Spiritist vigiai orare, so be vigilant first before you pray. So the vigilance is self-knowledge, is self-awareness, because I may be praying but in the wrong direction. I may be doing good but in the wrong direction. So that vigilance, that self-knowledge, and it's not that, it's just self-knowledge.
I think even prayer is self-knowledge, depending how we look at it. Because for us to really engage in prayer, we also need to engage within ourselves. And as more as we get to know who we are, and as more as we connect with our essence, with the self part of us, we also are in this journey of knowledge in terms of connecting with the divine within us. I guess as more as we evolve, I have a feeling that everything actually is part of this process of awakening as divine beings as we are. Our thoughts is part, become aware of what we think is part of self-knowledge. Become aware of what we feel is part of self-knowledge. Choose how we think, how we interact, what we do on a daily basis is part of self-knowledge. And now still we are with St. Augustine in the question 919a. Please, would you like to read it for us? The question that Allan Kardec raised.
We comprehend all the wisdom of that maxim, but the difficulty is precisely in knowing ourselves. By what means can we do so?
I find interesting this. It's almost like Allan Kardec wasn't happy with the previous one. I think he thought about us. Such a short answer. What do the kids mean by that? So he carried on asking. This question is interesting. We comprehend all this wisdom of that maxim, but the difficulty is precisely in knowing ourselves, isn't it? Sounds like talking to us. By what means can we do so? Carry on.
Do what I used to do when I was living on earth. At the end of each day, I examined my conscience, reviewed what I had done, and asked myself whether or not I had failed to fulfill some duty, and whether or not anyone might have had reason to complain about me.
So what we learn as learners, as we all are, regarding self-knowledge, the answer here by St. Augustine regarding question 919a. What came to our minds when we read, when we heard?
It's exactly what we live in day by day. Because some people come to us we don't do the right thing for them, it's like we have to put ourselves in the opposite side. And most of the time we are so selfish, we are just thinking ourselves. So we don't see the other person, and most of the time, all around us, they are complaining about something. We are not complaining about something.
Okay, what else?
You know, the self-knowledge process, and it's interesting because Susanna brought that, but it's also the awareness, self-knowledge of our potentialities. You know, just having that reflection, it's already a step, isn't it, in the right direction? Because so many people are going through life completely blind and unaware of why they're becoming ill, or unaware of why they're attracting certain situations. Whereas now, with some of the studies, we open up this little ray of light where we can see, actually, you know what, I inherit myself. So the discomfort that I feel within is part of me, interacting with me in relation to the external world. And now I'm attracting this. But you know what? I have exactly the same potentiality in the same level to change that around.
And has that ability within.
Exactly, because the same way that they changes, so can we. And it's picking that up, and it's okay, here are the consequences, let me deal with these consequences, get up, make sure I don't create them again, and proceed. So it's interesting, this process of self-knowledge, because we can go very much with our inheritance from the back to start, you know, hurting ourselves, and oh my God, I'm the worst person in the world because, you know, I'm impatient, you know, I don't do the things I want to do. Paul always said, you know, the things I want to do, that I don't do, all the things I don't want to do, that I do. So it's a constant battle we're having with ourselves, but the self-knowledge of it isn't that we're like that, it's the awareness that we're potential beings, and these shadows are simply directions, pointers towards the right direction.
They are signals, internal signals that are of ourselves, and also become conscious how we can choose to be better. Because they also bring the potentials within, isn't it? When we look ourselves in a loving way, because within Spiritism, self-knowledge is a flow, as I mentioned previously, within the consolation and hopeful message that the Enlightened Spirits bring to us based on Jesus' message is never to feel guilty or to blame ourselves, but is to learn to forgive ourselves and to allow ourselves with new opportunities for us to redo the experiences as learners as we are. Anything else? What else? At the end of each day, I examine conscience, reviewed that I had done, and asked myself whether or not I had failed to fulfill some duty, and whether or not anyone may have reason to complain about me. First, two things, isn't it? Do we do already at the end of the day our reflections, as St. Augustine is suggesting? Do we have time for ourselves? Is that enjoyable for us? Even when we find our shadows, because we're still divine creatures, even if we see our shadows. We don't need to become depressed about it. The other thing is, did we reach a stage in our existence that no one has anything to say about us? I don't know what you're laughing. Do we? The answer is no. If we are honest, if we are sincere, we are doing the best, we are improving, but we all have people who complain about us, and we still are in this mood of complaining. And then comes Jesus now and asks us, or teaches us, or at least invites us for us to stop complaining about ourselves, about others, and to do our best in every day, understanding that we are far away from perfection. We are in the journey of perfection. And that is a gradual process. So much so that we still are on a primitive stage, which is the planet Earth, but we are promoting ourselves already where we are. Mistakes still are part of the learning, as long as we don't feel doing them. When we realize, we choose freely to move on. And then in the question is still 919a, St. Augustine carries on. Susanna, would you like to read it for us, please?
Self-knowledge is therefore the key to individual improvement. But we will ask, how do we judge ourselves? Won't we be under the illusion of vanity, which exalts our wrongs and makes them excusable?
Now, what do we learn with this? If you take the first phrase, which is very short, self-knowledge is therefore the key to individual improvement.
When we know ourselves, know yourself first, is the, I think, the sentence. It's the, if you know yourself first, you are in the path of progress. Because I don't know how to explain.
So, as we are under the law of evolution, under the law of progress, under the journey of self-knowledge, yes, that means becoming more conscious of who we are. Therefore, we will gradually understand we are not a physical body, we are immortal beings, and we also are essentially psychological and emotional beings and not biological beings. Therefore, get to know the individual progress. As more as we get to know in this journey, gradually we are enlightening ourselves, and there the key within is the inner freedom that God gave us for us to improve us in a loving way. And loving doesn't mean permissive, but means responsible. This improvement is a gradual process, because remember, we are already on this journey for centuries and centuries and centuries. Our habits or conditioning, these are very ingrained in our unconscious memories. This is why we need now, through self-love, gradually repeating the new ways how we choose to be according to what we already understand now. Surely that will be very different in 10,000 years, but where we are today. And if we are doing that, we are on the right pathway. The key of self-improvement or improvement, individual improvement, is not outside us, it's internal, inside us. Is that making sense? So we all, meaning in different ways, what you previously said already, ourselves as incarnates and all of those who are out of the physical body, they can also stimulate that internal key and work towards the improvement. For instance, give me an example, Ivanis. Let's imagine I'm disincarnate and I'm without a physical body, but I have difficulties with people that I still hate because whatever they did. Not that much what they did, but the way that I interacted with them. And here I am now studying here that what I hate or I'm feeling very angry. How can I improve? Just choosing internally to forgive myself and to forgive others. Because if I'm very angry, it means that I also am very harsh with myself. And through self-knowledge now, Jesus, the greatest psychologist of everyone in the universe, is inviting us. Self-forgiveness is a process of self-love. And then also let go the others, understanding that we, within our limitations, do mistakes, others too. But he started, doesn't matter who he started. What matters is that I choose to let go now. Because that is good for me. Whatever others do to us, they need to fix it. What we do, because we all do mistakes, that I need to fix, and we can do that.
Because what highlighted to me in this whole passage is the illusion of vanity. And when we study vanity, it has so many facets, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So even being indifferent to our shadows is a process of vanity, where we use the false humbleness. Yes, well, I'm like that. I'm an angry soul, or I'm a vengeful soul, or I'm just like that. That's the way that I am, and full stop. Whereas that's a process of vanity as well, which is making excuses. Well, I'm like that because of my experiences, because of what's happened to me. This is how I've become. It's a process of vanity.
It is. The excuses and the lack of self-love.
And then the opposite of it, which seems to be vanity, is the self-love. It's interesting, this process.
And whatever happens to us, the reality is that we all, in this long journey, which we already are on for so long, we all went through hardships. We all went through hard experiences. But we all now are here learning that there is a cause for that. We are under the law of cause and effect. We also harmed others. Sometimes we don't remember that. And now we are learning to forgiveness, which is helping us to free from ourselves. Doesn't matter, even for us who are now in a physical body, doesn't matter what our parents did to us. The reality is that they, as also immortal beings, did the best that they could. And we are here now. If we are learning more, we have more tools to forgive. Or even if you think about, well, centuries and centuries, he or she was this, that. Well, we are no longer there if we choose to move on. And if we are still stuck there, we can choose now also to follow the right pathway. We are all invited to free ourselves from our own limitations, from our own illusions. And whatever happened to us, as we are divine beings in essence, we bring the ability to separate ourselves, to free ourselves from that. We are never alone. We are assisted by dear ones who are with us as long as we choose to listen to them and free ourselves from the vanity, or sometimes it may be even in a frame of mind that are pride to be prideful. So very harsh. In that way, I cannot perceive the subtle gentleness of love by those who love me already. And then we carry on, still with the other part. Anusa, read it for us, please.
Mr. think that they are simply being thrifty and foresightful, while proud individuals think that they are only full of dignity. All of this is quite true, but you have a means of control that cannot deceive you. When you are indecisive as to the quality of any one of your actions, ask how you would judge it if it had been done by someone else, if you would blame it in another. It cannot be any more legitimate for you, for God does not use two measures for justice.
How do we learn here about self-knowledge with St. Augustine?
But this is great. God, yes.
Our friend just told us about wearing someone else's shoes. So when we put ourselves in a position of others, then we look at the situation and see, do we like what the others did to us or not?
Mm-hmm.
So that's true. That's really good, effective way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's exactly what I was thinking, is to bring this as an example. And I was listening to Brene Brown, which talks about shame a lot. And I was listening to one of the things she was saying about the types of people that you want to share your experiences with the shameful experiences. And then she gave a list of 6 types of people that you don't want to share your experiences with. And I was just listening to them and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm one of them. You know, like people wouldn't want to share their experience with me because I would say to them, oh, please, come on, you're going through that. You have no idea what I've been through. You know, let me explain to you, like, come on, toughen up, you know? And that's the first of self-knowledge, because when I heard it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually one of those 6 people that you wouldn't want to share your experiences with, and I need to change that in myself. And that process of self-awareness, it's really uncomfortable, but it's necessary, because if we don't put ourselves in other people's shoes, we're constantly in that short frame of mind, looking only from my perspective, only from where I can see. It's like a funnel vision, when there's so much more to be seen, there's so much more to be felt and experiences with individuals, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I find that interesting, to be able to put ourselves in that
Yes,
position.
it is very uncomfortable, because the self-knowledge, being a proposal of self-love, means internal journey. And that means that we sooner or later need to reach the inner desert. Desert, yes, the inner desert. Because what is that, the inner desert? It's the references where we abandoned ourselves throughout centuries, where we ignored the love that comes from God. And then we created that internal reference of emptiness, which is very dry. So when we go through this level, it's not comfortable, yet it is healthy, because we are allowing ourselves to meet where we are and heal us from that level onwards. So we don't need to be afraid of it. We just need to be willing to connect with us on a deeper level.
But the fear of it is part of that process of vanity as well, isn't it?
It is vanity, pride, selfishness, all of those main issues where we are still very deep-rooted. Pride, because if I really want to go there, I need to diminish the pride within myself and need to learn to be more humble in terms of realizing that whatever is there I cooperated to build that throughout my journey, even if it wasn't in this existence. But as an immortal being, I built that within. So I need to learn to be responsible also, which is another virtue, which is much easier in a victim position to blame others for whatever goes on within. So these are the greatest challenges, because we haven't developed the virtues in itself, but we are on the journey. So to start with, it requires a bit of humbleness so that we can persist in our journey. But always bear in mind, we all bring innate disability. We just haven't stimulated much. And it's merely not because we didn't receive opportunities. As we consider we are beings for centuries, we have tons of opportunities, but we ignore them, or we run away, or we give excuses. So let's now, all of us, not give any more excuses, but be willing to face us in this loving proposal that Jesus is presenting to humanity, very consoling. Whatever we did, we still are loved by God. We still are cared by Jesus. We still can move forward and change, giving us new opportunities. When he said here, if you would blame it in another, it cannot be any more legitimate for you, for God does not have two measures of justice. Why not? Could we not say we, of course, as immortal beings, who may be a bit disconnected from God's laws, therefore our reference of justice is a bit awkward? Could I not be in the situation, perhaps tempted to think that I have some preferences regarding God? And why would I have that internal response? What happened to me for me to have that reference?
Years of construction.
Of what? What did I build? Vanity, arrogance. I believed in my illusion, hallucinations, that I was very powerful because I hate, because I destroyed, and I inflated my illusion. And now, as we carry on, as we are all under the law of God and getting to know about God's justice, there is just one measure, which is love. Love. But I was hurt. Love. Now someone gossiped about me. Love. But I was killed. You still are alive. Love. You always go back. Love. And as more as we love, better we feel. More free we are. More powerful we are. Because the greatest power in the universe is the real love that comes from God. Nothing else. Nothing else. Is that making sense?
It feels much light.
Much lighter, yes. We, even as learners at the beginning, we can make our journey easier. Because we resist less. We obey more. And obeying God and resigning myself towards the will of the Creator, it doesn't weaken me. It strengthens me. The strength within. The courage. Humbleness is not weakness. Humbleness is the strength of the soul. Fortifies us. We don't feel fearful. We face our experiences as learners, knowing, believing, feeling that God is love. I will survive whatever I need as a learner to go through. Is that making sense? Okay, then we move on. Today we are reflecting with St. Augustine. So formulate clear and precise questions and do not be afraid and add to them. You would do very well to devote a few minutes to securing eternal bliss. He is a very good psychologist, isn't it? He's saying very straightforward, formulate clear and precise questions and do not be afraid to add to them. What is he meaning by that? Don't delude yourself anymore. Be honest with yourself. You are already loving beings. Clear means clarity. Clarity in relation to what? To the natural laws which we bring with us. Don't give excuses. Well, I'm feeling bad because he, she. No. Clear questions. What do you want to do with what you're feeling? Love. Yes, Andre? And then he carries on, don't be afraid to add to them. What does it mean? What are you meaning here? Perhaps we are sitting there, reflecting 5 minutes. Oh my God, 4 already. And I'm having my list here. And I said, don't be afraid of adding. Adding what? Questions about myself. Why I'm feeling the way that I am. Why I'm so nervous. Why I'm so agitated. Why I'm so bothered about what others said. But no. Calm down. God is love within me. I have different options to engage. I can train myself in a different way. The other, which we may be hating or be very angry, you know what? We discover, all of us here, that God, who is love, who created us all, loves them as much as us. No, that cannot be. Yes. We don't believe in that level. And we are also invited to learn to develop that level of love. Love your enemies. Meaning, love those who we think are doing something wrong to us. But when you look within the journey of cause and effect, God knows what we did to them in the past.
One day I will understand everything.
Yeah. Anybody else? Securing eternal bliss. What does it mean? Interesting. Devote 5 minutes to secure eternal bliss.
Because things are going to happen regardless,
Yeah.
isn't it? So this process is actually helping, and I keep on, to me now is in my mind that I'm inheriting myself, so why self-sabotage so much?
Yeah.
Because we sabotage ourselves.
We do.
Because if we don't go through the experience this time, then we're going to have to go through it again and again and again, and it just keeps on getting harder and harder to break through that shell, the hard shell which we keep constructing with the shadows. So it's, eternal bliss, securing eternal bliss, because these reflections is there, it's stored, so when the experiences emerges, it's like, oh, I thought about this before. I'm going to be okay. I do that in the traffic a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, eternal bliss could be translated eternal peace. When we choose not sabotaging ourselves anymore, but to face ourselves as learners as we are. Then he carries on in saying, I know that many of you say that the present is certain, but the future is uncertain. A lot of people say that. Yes. So how do we understand that short phrase by St. Augustine? I know that many will say that the present is certain, but the future is uncertain. What comes to our minds? What we read? Materialism, and physical pleasures. I know that. Let's eat as much as I can. Let's have sex as much as I can. Let's have parties. Because when I die, I don't take anything. No, I will not die. I will carry on. The future is real. It exists. And we will wake up with the same habits. The future for us is certain and not uncertain. That is precisely the thoughts that we have been charged with tearing down in your minds. God knows for how many centuries, isn't it? For we desire to enable you to understand that future in such a way that no doubt can remain in your soul. How is that like? When we are studying Spiritism, as we are, is that not a process that we freely are willing and spontaneously to learn about the natural laws and therefore following what our enlightened beings who are directing us to a new direction are willing to do with us? As more as we read, the more we understand. And here is that we are really working hard to help you to re-educate your minds. And that way what is happening with us. Is still the question 919. Many of the wrongs we commit pass by us unnoticed. In fact, following the counsel of St. Augustine, if we would interrogate our conscience more frequently, we would see how often we have failed without noticing it by not having scrutinized the nature and motive of our deeds. These actually are the words of Allan Kardec, based on the words of St. Augustine. Are we quite often, many wrongs that we commit, we don't notice? Is that happening to us? Or are we already noticing all the wrongs that we commit? It depends, isn't it? It will be different for each individual. As more as one is aware, we become more aware, but we are not yet fully aware. Yeah? But
This is the hardest topic of all, isn't it? Like, seriously.
I hope I'm not depressing anyone here in talking about self-knowledge. My aim is to enlighten.
It's the most important one, but I think it's the ones that we've left to do afterwards, because it's the hardest one. You know, when you do all the tasks that you need to do and procrastinate. So much work, isn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like so much work.
It is. But thank God we are where we are. We are today better than centuries ago. Let's believe in us, in our renewing process. Much work, thank God. At least now I know already. Previously I didn't have any knowledge about that. I was so focused on my physical pleasures. Think about life. Let's carry on here. But now we have that knowledge. Now we are already willing to do something about it. And as nature doesn't jump, or psycho-emotional process, we cannot jump. We need to build step by step, move by move. Every single thought which we get right, we are moving forward. Danusa, read it for us, please.
This interrogation method is somewhat more precise than using a maxim, which we do not usually apply to ourselves. It requires categorical yes, no answers that leave no room for alternatives. They are personal assertions, and from the sum of the answers, we can compute the sum of good
And the evil
that
exists in us.
That exists in us.
Okay, what do we learn now here?
We don't lie to ourselves. And
Yes.
We talked about that when we were talking about prayer last week, you know? Just close that door and go and be honest with ourselves and just get on with it, you know?
Precisely when he says here, it requires categorical yes, no answers. Why is that important? Did we, in the past, let's be gentle with us, did we in the past lie to ourselves?
Yes.
Yes, a lot. Did you like the past? But I mean yesterday. So the categorical yes answers is to help us not to lie to us anymore, not to give excuses anymore. I don't do this because of, no, I don't do it because I don't want to, so now I choose to do it. Do you really want to progress? Yes. Instead of maybe. If God wants to, God wants always for us to go to progress. Do I want to really put effort into to get to know who I am? Yes or no?
Yes.
Do I really need to work? Do I really choose to do what I need to do in order to progress? Yes. We may be afraid of saying yes, because then I need to compromise with myself, isn't it? Or I may say very loud, yeah, so that no one listens to, because otherwise God may listen, and then the process of revolution, updating starts. We are all under the updating process. How do we know? When I'm complaining. What else? When I don't want to do what I know that was right. Can we see? Yeah. Remember that. Sorry.
I just remember Haroldo Dutra Dias in the weekend. He was in a congress in Rio Grande do Sul, and he was telling something about procrastination and I can do tomorrow, like Publius Lentulus. He said, okay, Jesus gave him an assertive, you can do right now and change your future, or you can wait. And he decided to wait for a few more, maybe centuries. And then he said, the planet is in the transition period, is a regeneration, going towards the regeneration. Are you going to wait for the tomorrow and wait 30,000 years more? Because we came from Capella, so we are doing this all over again. Are we still going to procrastinate and wait 30,000 years? So that shocked me.
Yes, it is time to wake up. It is not, we are not here to play on earth. It is serious. Serious not for us to feel, oh, no. It's time to get to know who we are and engage in this proposal of self-enlightenment. Self-love, not postpone anymore. Then we stop crying, then we start complaining. Because we are choosing to follow the Master this time, after centuries and centuries. We won't postpone it anymore. Because in this choice, freely, we are promoting ourselves to be the inhabitants of the planet of generation in the future. Yeah.
And I know as well this challenge, as we talked about it here, but it's a scrutinating process, he said. There is a way to do it, and he explains everything what we need to do, so it's a feasible way. We can do it.
Yes, it is achievable. This is the main reason that we are on earth. And we knew that before coming back. As Spiritism, inspiring lives, all lives too, we knew. The only thing that we need to resolve and to really actualize, upgrade ourselves is to understand that we are not from earth, we are not here only, we are here to evolve spiritually. And knowing the importance, which we within Spiritism, everyone who received this message already know. We don't have excuse that I didn't know, which some brothers and sisters in humanity may have to say later on, but we're not. So we are blessed, not because we are better, blessed because we have the knowledge. We have the signals, signaling us where to go, what to do, how to do. It only depends on us. So every moment counts, as we don't know for how long we are here. Remember that good spirits only aid those who serve God with humility and a lack of self-interest. They repudiate anyone who uses the way of heaven as a stepping stone to earthly things, and they withdraw from the proud and ambitious. Pride and ambition will always be barriers between human beings and God. Then we have on the bottom here, yes, the brothers and sisters who are there. How can we refrain? That's very beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's really, it makes it easier for us to kind of navigate through our imperfections, because what are my intentions behind, even, because it says here, the way to use heaven as a stepping stone for earthly things.
Yeah.
So whenever I see that I'm trying to get any sort of earthly gain through my faith, and it doesn't have to be only in Spiritist sense, it may be the way I communicate with people, you know, seeming to be more than what I am. Any way that I use to get earthly gains with my intentions, then it's a red flag for me, because it's going to happen because just the soul that I am and what I've constructed up until now. So it's really always being aware of what are my intentions, why is it that I'm doing what I'm doing? Is it out of wanting to appear to be something that I'm not? Is it my pride? Is it wanting some sort of stardom? Or am I really working because I want to get closer to God? So that's the choices I need to make daily, constantly, through this process of self-knowledge.
For me, what helps me, I remember that question on the Spirits book, that apart from all imperfections and virtues in life, is there anything else? And then the Spirits say there is self-interest, personal interests. So when I do my questions in the evening, as St. Augustine was saying, I try to think, okay, this was not a vicious, okay, this perhaps was not something imperfect, but did they had some personal interest on that action I did or that thought, or because that's important for us to think about it as well.
Yes, because then we come to the point what Anasa said, to recognize our intentions behind. And that is very, very positive when we do that, because we can only change what we perceive in ourselves. Unless we perceive what are our truly intentions behind our movements, if they are wrong and we don't perceive it, we think we are right. So self-knowledge is really a process to help us, to enlighten us. And it's an ongoing process for all of us. And then we have in the Spirit's book the question, where is God's law written? That we know, yes, everyone hands up, that we know. In the conscious. Now, give me a lecture about it, because I don't know what you learned already. What is that? Where is the conscious, okay? The little go there. Carry on, how we keep answers now. In the conscious, how do we understand that?
In the perispirit.
In the perispirit? I am the perispirit or the spirit? The spirit, yeah. Then we go on, then we have the next question. It says, if humans carry God's laws in their conscience, why doesn't it have to be revealed to them? Isn't that a good question? If you have been created by God, really, if you start to study and think, well, I have been created by God. The law of God is written in my deep conscience. Therefore, why does it need to be revealed? And then we hear, you know what? Us, have forgotten and disregarded it. God has willed for them to be reminded. Guess what we're doing in Spiritism? To remind ourselves of God's laws that are within us. This is why Spiritism is a consoling, loving, hopeful experience for all of us. We don't need to feel depressed by what we get to know, but we all need to learn. What is the perfect standard that God has offered to humankind as a guide and model? That we all know, isn't it? It's so simple, one word, which is Jesus. Our guide, our model, is the greatest doctor of all in the universe. Is the greatest psychologist of all, free of charge. Guess what? We all can freely choose to talk to him. And then we have, Jesus is the highest standard of moral perfection to which humankind on earth may aspire. God offers him as the most perfect model, and the teachings he taught is the purest expressions of God's law, because he was animated by the divine spirit and was the purest being that has never ever walked on earth. So do we all have a guide to refer to as we are building ourselves within goodness, love, justice? Yes, we all have. Jesus is our dear brother who deeply loves us all everywhere where we are. We just need to be willing to be more in contact with him. Be willing to listen what he has to say, because his message is a message of love, of peace, of brotherhood, of fraternity. Is that okay? We still have more. We carry on next week. Are we okay? With self-knowledge. Do we feel motivated today?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Remember, as we're coming to the end of our study today, self-knowledge is a proposal within Spiritism of self-love, so that we learn to love ourselves more as immortal beings as we are. Please put on this. And as we are coming to the end, closing this meeting with our hearts full of joy, with our hearts feeling blessed with these teachings which enlightens us, which help us to feel lighter as we are learning that we are all beings of love, beings of goodness, and beings of peace. Sometimes we may feel tired because we are hating others, gossiping about others. But we all can choose, whatever happened in our life, to forgive, to forget. Choose to elaborate positive thinking, ideas which feeds us in goodness. Changing our belief systems, actualizing new concepts about ourselves as immortal beings, beings of love, created by God, the God who is love and loves us all, wherever we are and with whom we are, and whatever we may undergo. Our experiences are transitory, aiming to teach us new ways of being. And in that way, knowing that the loving beings have been with us, let's express our gratitude towards the Creator of everything and everyone. Our gratitude towards our Master Jesus, the light of the world. Our gratitude towards the enlightened friends, spirits who are here with us. Also our gratitude towards our spiritual benefactors who are constantly with us in our homes, in our professional environments, in the streets, in our communities, in this place, in the zone we have. And ask them to bless all of those who are part in our path of evolution. And within the deep of our heart, may we express feelings of goodness towards ourselves and towards all of those who may be connected with us, as we are all connected with the love from God. Brothers and sisters in humanity, with the blessings that comes from Jesus, of light and peace upon every and each one of us. May we follow our journey, feeling lighter, feeling stronger, capable that we can change and choose to change day by day. So be it. Much peace to us.